Heyo, welcome everyone to Today in the Scene. I'm Joe, your host, and here on In the Scene, we dive into what's happening in the arcade space, from indie developers, arcade owners, and just general news in the space. Now, I helped create the game Galactic Battleground, and I've been showing it off at indie arcade conventions and stuff like that for over 5 years now. And I've got another indie this week that I'm really excited to talk to. We've had him on a few times. He's got awesome games like Switch and Shoot and Nidhogg. He is based in Des Moines and is known as DSM Arcade. We've got Dan with us. How you doing, Dan?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited for this one. I know I saw like some pictures a while back and didn't really know exactly what was happening, and then it kind of just kept showing up more and more. And now you've got a game called Perfect Pour, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I think it's a brilliant option because arcade bars are massive, breweries are massive, and this kind of targets straight to those locations. So let's just have you introduce yourself for anybody that doesn't know who you are.
I'm Dan with DSM Arcade. Typically, I work with game developers and design arcade cabinets for their games. I'm designing the cabinet and working with artists and the developer to kind of bring it to the arcade, make the changes needed, and things like that. Typically, we work with like existing games like Nidhogg and Switch and Shoot. But like you were talking about, Perfect Pour is the first time we're doing a game that's totally original. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited to play it. Actually, I might get a chance when we're at the end of our Texas tour. When we stop in Des Moines, I'm sure Kelly and
Yeah,
I can make a
totally.
stop and give it a go. It looks fun. We're definitely excited to see it, and MGC is gonna be another opportunity. I can't wait for that one. But let's talk about how Perfect Pour came together, because you said you've got these other games, Switch and Shoot, Nidhogg. Love them both. Played them a ton. Those were already pre-existing games that you brought to the arcade. You modified them in a way that fits the arcade a little bit better. Perfect Pour is like an original idea. So how did the idea come to you?
I was at a brewery in Des Moines, as I often am. One called Confluence, which is great. You should check it out. And it was like Friday happy hour, super busy. And I'm sitting at the bar and like just watching this bartender, and they have like probably a row on the wall of like 20 tabs, like all kind of, close to each other. And people are coming up and ordering tons of drinks, and he's just working the taps, and he's like pouring a drink over here, like in a huge glass. And then he'll run to the other end and pour like a small one. And then he pours one over here and he stops this one before he starts that one. And was just like dashing back and forth. And I'm just sitting there sipping my beer, like watching him. And then it was like, it's like a legit, this like light bulb moment where I was like, that would be an awesome game. And because I'm just always kind of thinking in like, that framing. Just I'm always like thinking about arcade games and what would work on the arcade. And I just saw him like going back and forth and like doing this like so like efficiently and just like quickly, and it looked kind of like fun. And so I just talked to the developer of Switch and Shoot, Matt Glanville, and he was great to work with. He was Switch and Shoot's the first game that we did, and I told him about the idea, and I put some I don't know like design stuff very well, so I got like some like Microsoft Paint and just drew up some like design docs of like, here's how the screen will look. You're the bartender, and you're like, here's the taps, and they're these colors, and I'll make the controls like this. And then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks later, he sent me like this prototype that he had just done really quick, kind of like kind of thrown together. I mean, I say thrown together, but it was like a really like, impressive product just like from the start. And then I just put it on my home cabinet and thought it was it was like immediately like really fun. Like I was really enjoying it. But it was on like my 4-player like super wide cabinet, kind of looks like a Ninja Turtles cabinet. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Maybe we'll think about doing that. And then I think we were like in the middle of Nidhogg 2, or just getting started with Nidhogg 2, and that just like really took off, and we were deep at work in that. And so it sat for a couple years, which is crazy to think about, but yeah, it was a couple years. And I had an extra Nidhogg prototype cabinet sitting around in the shop, and I remembered that we had that game. Like it was that kind of thing that I kind of like forgot that he had done that. And I put it on this prototype cabinet with like 4 joysticks to work the tabs, and it was just like, well, it was awesome. Like it was fun enough, like on this spread out like control panel, but having like a cabinet kind of like half designed for it made it like so much more enjoyable. and we started to like take it to some shows and show it off.
Yeah, I mean, proof of concept really already is there with Tapper. It's
Oh,
an
sure.
awesome game. It was kind of towards the end of the arcade era, so it didn't get as many published as maybe we would have wanted. And now every arcade bar wants to have it, but they're hard to find.
Yeah,
So
right.
you're kind of filling this gap of a beer-based
Sure.
pouring game
Mhm.
that's super fun. You guys have it set as a single player at this point, right?
Well, that's like the crazy thing. So like the first place we took it to, I just kind of showed some videos on Instagram messing around. Just be like, hey, we're it's like a little laboratory. We're messing with stuff all the time. And then I took it to 2D Con. They were
Yep.
nice enough to ask me to bring Switch and Shoot and Nidhogg there, and I was like, actually, I have this other game that we're working on. It's just like this kind of like, no, I mean, like a rough looking prototype. Uh, and so we brought it there, and we were watching people play it, and like it was supposed to be a single player game, but then like two people would come up and be like, actually, you take the red and green tap, and I'll take the blue and forget the blue and yellow taps, and we'll split it up like side by side. And so people started playing a two-player, like, which I would just like, I don't know, just to see that like what's that for, like emergent gameplay or whatever just kind of happened. And then a group of four came up, and they each took a tap, and they just started dominating the scoreboard. So it's like it was really cool to see people like invent these new ways to play it and kind of inform how we should probably design it. Like when they're doing the four players, they're all squeezed in like next to each other, could barely like grab them. So we're like, okay, let's space out the joystick so somebody could play it one player or four player or two player, you know, or three. And so we're kind of like, designing around, how people are playing it. The Nidhogg was like such a different thing. I mean, like I kept that secret until like the announcement video where it's like, hey, this is available to order right now. But Perfect Pour, we have like, but also Nidhogg 2 is like an established product. But Perfect Pour, I was like completely out in the open about it and just like posting videos, like showing it at, it's at Peachtree Brewing in Des Moines right now, showing it off there. And just like, I got a QR code on the front that says like, what do you save your quarter, send us a comment about what you think about the game. And so we can really like, you know, dig into like the play testing of it, which I'm super excited to kind of like do that and show the process like on our social media as we're doing it for sure.
Yeah, you've done it in a different way than a lot of the other developers have. Like I totally with you when we were making GBG. Like we were showing it off in a bunch of places. We were posting it on social media. We were getting feedback, constant construction or like criticism and stuff with it, and we were showing it off to family. And it was a process. Like we're figuring out what works and what doesn't work, and we're adding and subtracting basically from it. So you get to experience that now as opposed to like with Switch and Shoot where it was an established game. Nidhogg was an established game. Obviously, there's still play testing because they weren't made for the arcade, but
Yeah.
it's not like you're making monumental changes to the game. It's tweaking stuff, and I
Yeah.
guess now we've
Totally.
we've flipped sides because we're working on a new game that we aren't able to like say too much about, but we're going the other way. We have to keep it all quiet until
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
done. So,
That's funny. Yeah.
which will be fun to show it off at MGC. I'm excited about that.
Oh man, I'm super excited too.
2DCon shows.
Oh yeah.
MGC. What are the plans? Obviously, I'm excited to hang out again. You weren't able to make it last year. We just had Tony there, but hopefully we can get everybody back together.
Be there.
What is your plan for MGC? You gonna bring everything with you?
Yeah, we'll bring everything, and hopefully, I mean, the like I was saying, the perfect pour cabinet right now is just like this kind of like blank cabinet that was like me working out the I keep pointing to the wrong one, working out the design for Nidhogg too. And so I just painted it orange, and it's like orange and black. And so we had another brewery called Fire Trucker first, and it was during Ragbri, and I just put a pile of Sharpies on it and wrote "Sign Me," and so people just signed the side of it. And it's like got a cool look to it. But we're hoping to have, we'll at least have that one, but hopefully at that point, since it's, is that 3 months out? Yeah, 3 months out.
Yeah, it's
We'll
like
have a
early
much,
April.
right. Yeah. A much more finished product, but like, we're in the kind of like, I'm still designing the cabinet. We're figuring out what the tap handles are going to look like. Is it just standard bat tops, or is it something more unique than that? All these details, and haven't even met with the artist yet. That's in, a week or two. And there's a ton of like game development to do on Matt's end, and he'll be starting that this spring or in the next couple months here, which is cool because Matt Glanville has never seen a switch and shoot cabinet in the 5 years we've like had them in existence. He lives in England, so that's and there was also a pandemic in there, so he's never seen one in person. I built him like a tiny mini one, like one time that I sent over for him to like bring to shows in the UK. But it'll be super exciting for him to see the switch and shoot cabinet. But also, he's going to come here. We're just going to do like a little kind of 2-man game jam type thing for like a week. He's just going to stay here. We'll be in the arcade. Just he'll make some changes to the game. We'll play the cabinet. We'll say, "Hey, try this." We'll play the cabinet. We'll just kind of go back and forth like that. And so, because we just think we could do it, fully remotely. But I feel like the arcade is the controller for the game, and for a game developer to make a game without ever touching the controller for it seems bonkers, especially for a game like this where you're simulating like a real world thing, like pouring a beer. If it was just like buttons, maybe because he could just hold a gamepad or a fight stick or whatever. But this is like, he's just got to stand in front of it and play. But it'd be really cool for him to first off see Switch and Shoot, but also to I'm just like the arcade game development process with him like working on the cabinet like on the fly. I think that'll be a really cool experience. We'll try to document some of that for social media, and maybe we can talk with you again when he's here too. That might be a cool thing to do.
I was just gonna say we should do another
2-man
episode.
interviews.
We can kind of talk about the process of doing it remotely and creating the game. A lot of people are interested in making these games. I mean, I just got a video the other day from Wonderville. He was showing me some of the games that are in there. There's a lot of interest in people building cabinets. You've built a bunch of them. You know what you're doing, and you're the cabinet guy. That's what you're doing with the project. So, what advice would you have to someone who maybe made a game or has a game that they're interested in? How would you go about building a cabinet for the first time if you had no experience and you have no tools? Where would you go?
Man, that's wow. That's like tough because like it's like looking. I've been DSM Arcade this month will have existed for 6 years, which is pretty crazy because it started like so small, just like me messing around, like building weird looking arcade cabinets in my garage. And then maybe like a year in or something like that, we started doing switch and shoot. Um, but after like 6 years of it, I mean, it's hard for me to say if like because I've talked to people before who are like, oh I have a game on that kind of disappeared on Steam really quick, and so I'm thinking about building an arcade cabinet for it, like, and they're going to do it themselves. And I know this seems like really like self-serving, but you should probably if I talk to somebody like DSM Arcade, because the amount of work it takes to like bring a game into like a commercial product, like I'm 6 years into it and I'm kind of getting it. Like I've got a good grasp on it now, but there's still like a lot of parts of it where I'm like, okay, I think I got that part now. You know what I mean? Like the cabinets, it's just like a huge undertaking. So I think like unless you want to build arcade cabinets, I wouldn't like go down that route. I would probably work with somebody who has that expertise. Like if the goal is I have a game that I want to be popular on arcade, work with somebody that builds arcades. If you want to build arcades, then start building arcades. But in terms, which I know seems obvious, but for real, that's like legit advice. Because if like the passion for like just creating them is not there, then it's gonna be super super hard for a lot of different reasons. In terms of like resources, I mean, there's like an indie arcade Slack that you could probably get into. Talk to people like you were just talking about Wonderville. They do a lot of like really like creative stuff. Sometimes like super advanced. Sometimes like they just have like a circular saw on their patio and they're like hacking something together. Like I've done a million times, especially when we were like starting out. So just like, but that's another thing. You don't need to like. There's a million different routes, I guess. You don't need to have a shop because there's like worker spaces and things like that. But if you, I'll just say in my rambling answer, if you want to like build arcade games, you have to really want to like build arcade games. If it's like a means to a different end, like getting visibility on your Steam game, I think that's going to be a way tougher route. I ended on such a pessimistic tone, but I think that's really, I think that's good advice.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's an undertaking. It really is. And I
You,
think the idea of building it for a game that you have on Steam isn't a bad idea.
you know,
But what I've seen probably work the best, the example I'm going to think of is Street Cleaner and Creaky Lantern Games. And they went out, they found a beat up ass cabinet that had a game that didn't work in it anymore. They gutted it and they just used that. They took out the playfield, they put in a new playfield that they made, and they had the bones. Like that's the easiest way to do it. Then you don't need to have the carpentry skills. You don't need to know how to cut everything equally.
that's super good advice because it's like I think that's a good way to like think of it is like think of your skill set and the things you're passionate about, especially, and then like you focus on that and try to fill in the other areas with like other people's like knowledge or like resources like that where you're bringing in an existing cabinet, or like something that already has cool art on it and you can reuse it or something like that. Like, yeah, that's a really like smart idea.
Yeah, there's always a way. I mean, like you can jump on Facebook Marketplace and find a beat up cabinet, and take out the CRT, sell it to somebody. Take out the board, sell it to somebody, and that way you're still kind of preserving it and you're giving it potentially another life. But you might not be able to fix that cabinet. There might be something with it that is not
Yeah.
repairable, and you can still use the bones and make something new. So I think that's a
Yeah.
good route. Obviously, if you're going to build a full cabinet and go commercial with it, then reaching out for advice is definitely the best place to start. And I think you're a good spot to reach out, and definitely Market Wonderville is a good spot to reach out.
Yeah. There's tons of people I haven't run into anybody in this whole world who's like I've asked for advice and they've been like, you know what, man, no, not once. So like, I know that can be hard for some people to be like putting themselves out there. It probably was for me for a while, but things really started to move fast when I just like started to ask people things. You know what I mean? Like I bug the guys at Bumble Bear all the time, and they're always super gracious about it. So like,
Right.
big thanks to them. But like, anytime I'm like, is this crazy if I do this? And I just send them a message. They're like, no, that's a really good idea, or what, or don't do that. But yeah, there's resources out there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can jump into the Indie Arcade Wave Discord. The link is going to be in the description. Amar from Crab Volleyball just put up a question the other day, and there were like 15 people that chimed in within an hour. Like, people want to help you build these games, so
Yeah.
use the resources. It's you can just join the group. It's not a big deal.
Totally.
That's pretty much all I want to talk about. I'm just really curious about the game, where the idea came from, how it's getting developed, stuff like that. So, give any shout outs that you got, and let people know where they can follow along with Perfect Pour.
Well, shout out to Indie Arcade Wave, of course, man. It's always good to talk to you, and I really appreciate what you're doing with this stuff. We're just super excited about the game, it being like a unique idea, and just the response we've seen to it is just like been awesome. So, but yeah, I mean, like in terms of shout outs, like all the people we were just talking about, like Market Wonderville, Josh and Nick at Bumble Bear, Tony, like you, like for real, like people get in those discords and those slacks, and I think you're really quick, like see like the positivity and like the helpfulness of the community for sure. But yeah, in terms of following like our stuff, we're DSM Arcade everywhere on social media. You're probably not going to see us posting on Twitter or X or whatever too much anymore. We're pretty much we post a lot to like Instagram just because it's such a visual medium, and I think you can post good content to there. I've dabbled in TikTok, and we got to double down on that probably because we can make some cool videos of this stuff. But yeah, and dsmarcade.com, of course, anytime. See our game locator, and we'll try to get a newsletter going soon to keep people updated on Perfect Pour. And for release date, sorry to jump in again, we're trying. It's going to be a 2024 game, and so
Okay.
we're hoping. I've learned my lesson on like getting specificity of timelines, just because there's a lot of like different moving parts, and it's kind of like hard to like pin down. But it'll be a game that's coming out this year, and we're just keep an eye on it. We're excited.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be giving out updates on it as I found out stuff. Like, I'm gonna want to share it because I want to play it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on, Dan. I appreciate it. I love Nidhogg. I love Switch and Shoot. I'm excited for another game, the first DSM original. It's going to be cool to see. And yeah, for anybody that's still watching, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us a ton. We can all ride the wave together, and it'll just keep on growing. We have the new Galactic Battleground 4-player tabletop and the Konami available for sale now on our website. We have the Texas tour coming up in a few weeks here. And yeah, that's it. So until next time, peace.